Hi everyone, I'm back with another reading wrap up. This is for May. So I have read twelve 14 books in May. So I'm just gonna get started. So there's a few that I haven't got like in-depth reviews on because not really any particular reason, just because you don't really need in-depth reviews for them. So I'm going to start with Doctor Who icon Shirley Jackson, The Chaos Box by Kailyn Bayron. So Kailyn Bayron has written, I think it was the Poison Heart series. So I give this one 4 stars. So this is about Ruby Sunday asking the Doctor where in time and space he'd like to visit, and the pair embark on an adventure to discover more about Shirley Jackson. And then a sinister figure sowing discord with an aid of a glowing box. And they're quickly embroiled in an alien plot to bring disorder and destruction to Earth. This was really, for a short story, this was really, really good. I could see this actually. I could see this have been an episode of Doctor Who if we would have had more time with the 15th Doctor. But alas, that was not to be. I also read Rose. This is by Russell T Davies. So this is literally the first episode that Christopher Eccleston was in. So in Albany, central London, a malevolent alien intelligence is plotting the end of humanity. Shop window dummies that can move and kill are taking up key positions ready to strike. Rose Tyler, an ordinary Londoner, is working her shift in a department store, unaware that that is the most important day of her life. She's about to meet the only man who understands the true nature of the threat facing the Earth. A stranger who will open her eyes to all the wonder and terror of the universe, a traveller in time and space known as the Doctor. This is basically a 1-for-1 of the original episode. But yeah, this was fantastic. I gave this one 5 stars. The next on the list is Starman. David Bowie, the definitive biography by Paul Trenica. So this is literally about David Bowie. From his early years in post-war bombed out Brixton to the descent of glamour of Ziggy Stardust, the controversial but vital Berlin period, and the everywhere beyond that. I gave this 5 stars. This was so fascinating. I love David Bowie. I literally, as I filmed this yesterday, which was the 30th of May, went to something called the Bowie Experience, which is a tribute band, and I enjoyed it very much. I went there actually dressed as Bowie too, and met the lead singer. So yeah, so I really enjoyed this. Thought it was appropriate to read this in May, considering I was going to go see that. Next, I'm going to do these two together because I've got some explaining to do. Storm of Swords, Blood and Gold by George R.R. Martin. I think we all know what Game of Thrones is by now. And Feast of Crows. Gave this one 3 stars. I have actually DNF'd this one, and I am no longer continuing with the Game of Thrones series. I will explain. This was pointless. This book. Arguably this one too, but I'll explain in a minute. The only significant things that happened were major character deaths. 3 to 4 of them. In fact, it was long, it was arduous. It was a lot of walking, a lot of travelling. That was it. A lot of walking. I know Lord of the Rings is a lot of walking and a lot of travelling, but at least they make it exciting. George R.R. Martin does not make it exciting. He makes it boring. When you get to the action, which is the red wedding scene, it had its good moments, but they're very, very few in between for a slog of a book. Again, same gist with this one. I was near enough 600 pages in. The only exciting thing was 1 character death. 1 in 600 pages. How are you defining this as an epic fantasy when the rest of the characters are wandering through the bloody woods or King's Landing or wherever they are? One character death and the mention of 2 others. Nothing's... I understand why the TV show went the way it did. Because you can't make a TV show out of books this bloody long where nothing happens. It's ridiculous. And you know what? I am not asked whether we get the last 2 books anymore because I'm not reading the next 2. I'm keeping the first 3. Because they were the better ones. And getting rid of the rest. I also read Mate by Ali Hazelwood. This is the Afterlight exclusive. So Mate is the sequel to Bride. Can I tell you the synopsis of this? You know what? I will. Serena Paris is orphaned, packless and one of a kind, coming forward as the first human-were hybrid, was supposed to heal a centuries-long rift between the species. Instead, it made her a target, prey to the ruthless political machinism? Okay. Between wers, vampires and humans. With her enemies closing in on her, she has only one option left. If he'll have her. As alphas of the Northwest Pack, Cohen Alexander commands obedience. His authority is absolute, and only a fool will threaten his mate. It doesn't matter if Serena doesn't reciprocate his feelings, nothing will stop him from keeping her safe. So essentially she's been chased by vampires and humans alike. I gave this one 4 stars, as this one was filled with plot and substance, far past what a romance would actually be. The romance actually kind of felt like a side plot than the main plot. But Serena and Cohen work well together. They have English. They've got good chemistry. Which I think should have been shown beyond the spy scenes. The chemistry was good, but it was only in the spy scenes. And the humour and sarcasm of the 2 of them work very well together. Then I read Rewitched, which is by Lucy Jane Wood. This is the Works spread-edged edition. So when the leaves fall, magic rises. Belladonna Blackthorn hasn't lost her magic spark. But she hasn't seen it in a while either, balancing at work her beloved London bookshop, Luna Books. With handling her toxic boss and concealing her witchcraft from those around her, Belle is burnt out. Perfecting the potential of her magic is the last thing on her mind. When her 30th birthday brings a summons from her coven and a trial that tests her worthiness as a witch, she is at risk of losing her magic forever. With only a month to fix things and suspicion that the dark forces may be working against her, Belle will need all the help she can get from the women in her life, from an unlikely mentor figure, and even an infuriating coven watchman who's sworn to protect her. I gave this one 4 stars. It does a lot of 4 stars this time. This is a very sweet, cozy fantasy. It's got some medium and some high stakes in the plot. It's got a lot of really good messaging throughout. And it was subtle messaging, not like in your face kind of messaging. Very complex magic system. It's very different to a lot of the small town cozy fantasies you usually see. Belle can come across as very obnoxious though. That's what really kind of got on my nerves. She does eventually develop into a more kind of tolerable character, but she is not tolerable for a lot of this book. But Rune is an amazing love interest. I can understand why people like him. And the cat is adorable. Then I read A Soul to Touch, which is the 3rd in the Just Walk a Bride series by Opal Rain. This is between Al Mayim and... So she's a demon hunter, and Mayumi, who is... No, is the demon hunter. Hang on. I'm confused. yeah, so all Mayim ever wanted was to hunt demons. So she's the demon hunter, and Faunus is the Dustwalker that is the one stalking her. So the origin story is quite interesting. He meets her when she's a child, but she's a very awful character. She treats him like shit, and she's actually a hypocrite. The Dustwalker, he's sweet. They all are sweet. They have been in the last 3. He only wanted to ever do right by her, but this series has been a very much a letdown. The first book was fantastic, but the last 2 are awful. So my journey ends here with the series. I know there's male and male ones. They might be better. So if I ever can get them on my Kindle, I might give them a chance, but I'm not continuing. Another startling disappointment. Last to Leave the Room by Catelyn Stark. Or Caitlin Stark. Starling. Catelyn. It's because of the Game of Thrones. Caitlin Stark. So the city of Sansarico is sinking. The basement belongs to Dr. Tamsin Rivers, the arrogant, selfish head of the research team, assigned to find the source of the substance that is sinking faster. As Tamsin grows obsessed with the distorted dimension of the room at the bottom of the stairs, she finds that the door didn't exist before, and one night it opens to reveal an exact physical copy of her. This doppelganger is sweet and bibbable, where Tamsin is calculated and cruel. It appears fully, terribly human, passing every test Tamsin can devise. But the longer the double exists, the more Tamsin begins to forget pieces of her life, lose track of time, to grow terrified of the outside world. With her employer growing increasingly suspicious, Tamsin must try and hold herself together long enough to figure out what her double wants from her and just where this mysterious door might lead. Again, disappointing. 3 stars. I noticed when I was reading some other people's reviews, they call this body horror. In no goddamn way is this body horror. Alright, yeah, there's a missing eyeball. A missing eyeball? That's body horror? It's not even described. The socket is not described. The way it ends up missing is not described. That's not body horror. That's just, ooh, someone's missing an eyeball. It's a psychological thriller at most. There's no body horror, nothing massively horrifying. Just what should have been a thrilling mystery. And it lacked conviction on its ending. It had so much to offer with the premise and then failed to deliver. Stranger Things, Suspicious Minds by Gwenda Bond. This is the summer of 1969. Does that make you think of a song? It should. The world is changing and Terry Ives isn't content to watch from the sidelines. When word gets about an important government experiment, she signs on as a test subject. But behind the walls of Hawkins National Laboratory is the piercing gaze of its director, Dr. Martin Brenner. Lurks a dark conspiracy theory to face it, she'll need the help of fellow test subjects, including a mysterious young girl with unexplainable powers. This one's 4 stars. There was a slight, it needed improvement. But it does give an insight to Brenner himself, and some of the characters that do feature in the show, like Terry and Callie. I would have liked to have seen more of the other characters, though. The experiments were quite fascinating to learn about, especially after watching the show and seeing its ending. To learn that the experiments went on way before this, and the lab... Spoilers for season 5, because I know it's not been a full 6 months yet. When you see the lab in season 5, where they have all the pregnant women, you kind of understand this book a little more, which is creepy. And then I thought, after the slog of really terrible books I've had, I wanted to revisit an old favourite, Mr. Magic by Kirsten White. I read this, God, when I first started getting back into reading. Who is Mr. Magic? Former child stars reunite to uncover the tragedy that ended their show and discover the secrets of his enigmatic host in this dark supernatural thriller. 30 years after a tragic accident shut down the production of the classic children's programme Mr. Magic, the 5 surviving cast members have done their best to move on, but just as generations of cultishly devoted fans still cling to the lessons they learned from the show, the cast known as the Circle of Friends have spent their lives searching for the happiness they felt while they were on it. The friendship, the feeling of belonging, and the protection of Mr. Magic. But with no surviving video of the show, no evidence of who directed or produced it, and no records of who or what their beloved host actually was, memories are all the former circle have. Then a twist of fate brings castmates back together at the remote desert filming compound that feels like it's been waiting for them all this time. Even though they haven't seen each other for years, they somehow understand one another better than anyone has since. After all, they're the only ones who hold the secret of that circle, the mystery of the magic man in his infinitely black cape, and maybe the answers to what really happened on that deadly last day. But as the Circle of Friends reclaim part of their past, they begin to wonder, are they here by choice, or have they been lured into a trap? Because magic never forgets the taste of your friendship. I adore this book. I gave it 5 stars the last time, and I gave it 5 stars this time. This is just a fantastic, great depiction of cultish religious trauma and the effects it has on its victims, and also the weird cultish depictions of fandom, especially for kids shows. Think Barney. Think My Little Pony. Think... I don't know, I'm trying to think of some really cultish fandoms for kids' TV shows. Think Chuck E. Cheese. Five Nights at Freddy's. That kind of stuff. Think really creepy things. It reminds me of some of the shows that I actually watched as a kid, weirdly. That kind of grasp that they have on you, and you think, should you rewatch them as an adult? Then when you do, you think, why did this exist? All the ones that you watched as a kid, and you go to other people and you say, do you ever remember watching this show? And they go, no, never heard of it. And you think you're the only one person in the world that watched it. And it shows how, like, the Mandela effect is very much a real thing. It's very horror-esque, and it just gives the vibes of very messed up childhoods. I really enjoy this book. It's one of my favourites. But yeah, I think Barney the Dinosaur is one of the main shows that comes to mind. That and High Five. That's a show people probably don't remember. That's what Mr. Magic reminds me of. Then I finished Skyridge Hotshots. I read Honor by Danielle Baker. Again, the work spread edged edition. So this is about Teddy and Xander. So it says, being a wildland firefighter is all I've ever known. It's my greatest passion. But this dangerous job destroyed my parents' marriage, so I knew I'd never be a relationship kind of guy. All that changes when my best friend moves his recently widowed and pregnant younger sister and his 2 kids in next door. I've been crazy about Teddy for years. After I assist her in emergency home birth, I find myself spending more and more time near her and her kids. Teddy heart's been locked up after losing her husband, and breaking down her defences is damn near impossible, but I want to show her that I'm here to stay for all of them. So, I gave this 3 stars. This one, not as good as the other 2. It's very repetitive with themes of motherhood and body image. So much so, it's like a lot of the body image talk comes from him, and it's quite off-putting. Very off-putting. It's more objectifying than it is positive. And the timeline for the afterbirth recovery makes no sense. So not the best one. Then I read The Never King, which is part of the Vicious Lost Boy series by Nikki Crow. I gave this one 5 stars. I'll read you the synopsis for this one. The stories were all wrong. Hook never was the villain. For 2 centuries, all of the darling women have disappeared on their 18th birthday. Sometimes they're gone for only a day, sometimes a week or a month, but they always return broken. Now, on the afternoon of my 18th birthday, my mother is running around the house making sure all the windows are barred and the doors are locked. But it's pointless because when night falls, he comes for me. And this time, the Never King and the Lost Boys aren't willing to let me go. The Never King is a dark retelling of Peter and Wendy if you like your enemies to lovers, romance with hot, ruthless, morally grey love interests. You'll enjoy The Never King and the Love Boy. You can expect hate kissing, fighting, bickering, and touch her I'll unalive you vibes. So, the twist on Peter's personality in this is fantastic. I mean, normally you picture Hook with this kind of personality, but seeing Peter with it was really cool. And how the characters actually had so much self-awareness of how sexually charged they were was impeccable. You don't see that in a lot of dark romances, or a lot of romances, in fact. I mean, they could use some more development, but you've got to think, for opening to a series which is a short book anyway, this was amazing. Last but not least, and this has been on my TBR for God knows how long. I've had this since high school, and I thought this was a terrible idea to take this in because it's called Shooting Martha. Imagine sat there reading this in high school. This is by David Thewlis. You all might know David Thewlis as an actor. He was in Inspector Calls. He was most notably in Harry Potter as Remus Lupin. Hence why I have this. I also have another book, which I will get to reading at some point. This was a very high 4 stars. So, Shooting Martha is about a celebrated director called Jack Drake who can't get through his latest film, his most personal yet, without the support of his wife. The only problem, she's dead. When Jack sees Betty Dean, actress Mother Trainwreck, playing the part of the crazy nun on stage in an indie production of The Devils, he's struck dumb by her resemblance to Martha. Desperate to find a way to complete his masterpiece, he hires her to go and stay at his house in France and resuscitate Martha in the role of loving spouse. But as Betty spends her days roaming the large sunlit rooms of Jack's mansion, filled to the brim with odd treasures and occasional crucifixes, and her evenings playing the part of Martha over scripted video calls with Jack, she finds her method acting taking her to an increasingly dark place. As Martha comes back to life, she carries with her the truth about her suicide and the secrets she guarded until the end. This was twisty as hell. Think Agatha Christie. Think Rivals. Think... I don't know. Yeah, Agatha Christie and Rivals. Mix the two together, I suppose. It started out quite slow. It didn't really make much sense at the beginning. I was thinking, what the hell am I reading? But it picked up in the second part. It was such an interesting concept and had an unexpected ending, and it's very overtly theatrical. I could see this being a film, and I would watch it. So, those are the books I have read in May. So I hope you enjoy this, and you will see me, I don't know when, whenever I've got something to film. Yeah, it's becoming that kind of way now. I don't really have a lot to film. I am running out of ideas. If I come up with something, I will update you. Anyway, I shall see you next time. Bye.